The Coffee People podcast is presented by Roastery Coffee Packaging. Roastery is the digital printing company that makes custom printed packaging for coffee products. They create packaging that make even small roasters look like a really big deal. At roastery.com, you'll find out about their fast turnaround time, high-quality product, and low printing minimums. It's what separates them from the rest of the industry. Roastery will quickly become your favorite source for custom American-made product packaging. They work with small, mid, and large coffee roasters, so if you're ready to upgrade your coffee packaging, go to roastery.com to learn more and connect with the team. Link in this podcast's show notes. Hey, good morning, everyone. Welcome to the Coffee People podcast, which is part of the Roast West Coast Coffee Network and presented by Roastery Coffee Packaging. If you are roasting coffee and you want to put your perfectly crafted beans into a perfectly crafted package or tin, you're going to want to check out roastery.com. I'm Ryan Woldt, and this is the Coffee People podcast, where we meet really interesting people from all corners of the coffee industry. Today we're stretching a bit out of our normal interviewee zone to chat with Kirstin Hill. She has a long title, so I'm going to try to get it all out in one breath. Kirstin is the Bird Friendly Program Manager for the Smithsonian Migratory Bird Center. In coffee, she works to grow demand and support for Smithsonian Bird Friendly certified coffees, which they refer to as the gold standard in biodiversity-friendly coffee and the only coffee that guarantees that every bean sold is grown in a way that provides high-quality habitat for birds and other wildlife. If you want to dig into that a little bit while listening today, you can learn more at drinkbirdfriendly.com. The term bird-friendly coffee overlaps somewhat with the term shade-grown coffee, but the Smithsonian certification, I think Kirstin can do a better job of explaining it.
I'd love to talk a little bit about sort of what bird-friendly means and kind of the scope of the program in that sense. So just to provide a little context for anyone who perhaps hasn't heard of Bird Friendly or might be learning or hearing about it for the first time. So Bird Friendly is a third-party certification program that was created by Smithsonian to protect biodiversity habitat on coffee farms. So in the simplest terms, bird-friendly coffee comes from farms that provide good forest-like habitat for birds and other wildlife. We uphold some very strict environmental criteria around what it means for a farm to be bird-friendly, which is why we kind of think of ourselves as sort of the gold standard in biodiversity-friendly coffee that's currently on the market. So the way that the program works is we certify at the farm level and have licensing agreements in place at the importer and the roaster level. And so what that means is that third-party inspectors come out to certify a farm as bird-friendly. Once the certification is issued, then the farm can trade their coffee as bird-friendly for a period of 3 years. And that coffee can then enter into our bird-friendly supply chain of importers, roasters, and retailers, where it makes its way to the coffee consumer. And when we think about what it means to be bird-friendly and sort of the types of things that we look for in the certification, one of the primary things is shade cover. So we look for a minimum of 40% shade covering over the coffee crop. So trees providing, if you picture yourself standing in the middle of a coffee farm, you look straight up and about 40% of what you're seeing is covered by leaves, covered by canopy. So that would meet the bird-friendly standard, providing that nice high-quality shade. We also look for a canopy height of about 12 meters in order for bird-friendly certification to be issued. And we look for tree diversity as well. So we want to have at least 10 species of trees on the farm, and we want to have majority of those tree species being native. And that's because native trees provide healthier bugs, healthier insects, healthier berries for the birds and biodiversity that are living there compared to trees that might be native to a different area and then kind of brought in and planted there as well. We look for a lot of other criteria as well that are more along the lines of recommended criteria. So things like maintaining stumps and snags, little areas for birds to hide and for bugs to hide, for the birds to then hunt out and eat. We want to see things like riparian buffers, so areas that kind of keep a stretch of land available between where the crop ends and a stream or a river would begin. And that helps prevent a lot of excess nutrients and things like that entering into the water system there. And then, as we've talked about a little bit before, organic certification is a prerequisite for becoming bird friendly certified as well. So those are kind of the main tenets of what it means to be bird friendly. So when you see that logo, that's what that means. That's what you're signing up for, that 100% of the coffee that you're purchasing is coming from that type of habitat.
That bit of audio was from near the end of our conversation, but it explains so much about the work they are doing at the Smithsonian that I wanted you to hear it up front before we get into the rest of this chat. I should acknowledge that I am a casual, bordering on not-so-casual birder. Just this week, my cousin and I spent a few minutes glassing some egrets and blue herons out the window at his home in Minnesota. He has been equally bit by the birding bug. One of my favorite parts about the whole birding adventure is being able to enjoy a cup of great coffee outside while I wait for something interesting to wing into view. Today, I'm drinking a cup of French-pressed Sgt. Pepper's Coffee Roasters, which was pulled from their honor box in the small town of Patagonia, Arizona. I hope you're enjoying a full mug of something delicious as well, because it is time for another Coffee People podcast, this time with Kirstin Hill, Bird Friendly Program Manager at the Smithsonian Migratory Bird Center. I think it's me. I've had that kind of day where everyone is running a little behind around me.
Oh boy.
I spent 3 hours in the car this morning just to get coffee because it was just chaos everywhere.
Oh boy.
I'm really excited that you were here on the show, and you come to this show with a different perspective than maybe one of our normal guests. Could you, for me and for everyone who's going to eventually listen to this, let us know what your name is and your job, kind of what your role is in coffee, and where you're located?
Absolutely. So my name is Kirstin Hill. I am the program manager for the Smithsonian Bird Friendly certification, and I live in Port Moody, British Columbia, which is just outside of the city of Vancouver.
And I did a little bit of research before the show, and I had actually in my notes Vancouver, Washington. So I'm glad that I had asked that or looked that up before we actually chatted, although I just told everyone. I should ask you right at the top, do you have a favorite bird?
That's a great question, and one we do get quite a bit. So I would say if I had to choose, I might go with the loggerhead shrike, which is a really interesting little bird that is known for impaling its prey on small spikes and thorns and fence posts and things like that, which I just kind of fell in love with, sort of just the kookiness of that behavior, that really unique behavior in this bird. So they're just kind of these little feisty birds that I said, if I have to pick a favorite, I'm going to go with this guy with this kind of unique behavior for how they kind of impale their prey.
I'm going to skip ahead in my thought process here to a question I was going to ask in a few minutes, but based on that, when I think of the Smithsonian, I think of the TV show Bones, but I don't think that's what you guys are doing. That is like my experience with the Smithsonian. What does your organization within the Smithsonian Institute do?
Yeah, good question. So I've actually never seen the show Bones, so I'm not sure what I guess they portray as their connection to Smithsonian, but
they are a forensic scientist who study murders.
Oh, okay. Interesting.
Not bird murders.
Do they work for the Smithsonian?
Yes, they work for the Smithsonian as scientists, and they are brought in as consultants on Washington, D.C. murders.
Oh, that's so interesting.
It's a very intense show. But the loggerhead shrike is not, as far as I know, one of the murderers in the show, but maybe someday. So I'll let you get back to it. What is kind of the role that your organization has within the museum?
Yeah, so the Smithsonian Bird Friendly program is part of the Smithsonian Migratory Bird Center. So that is the center in which we are housed. And Smithsonian is a really massive entity. So it consists of 19 museums plus the National Zoo and research institutions and centers that are found around the world. So we at the Migratory Bird Center are actually part of the Smithsonian's National Zoo and Conservation Biology Institute, which is headquartered in Washington, D.C. Our center, the Smithsonian Migratory Bird Center, works to study the grand phenomenon of bird migration, largely thinking about migration and migratory patterns occurring between North America, where birds will breed, and then flying down south for the winter, where they'll kind of spend their time overwintering in a more tropical or a warmer climate than they would during the warm weather months. So studying that annual cycle of migration and the birds that complete it.
That's shocking how large that is. I didn't realize there was that many museums. I just knew of the one before this, so that's really intriguing to me. I want to get into kind of bird-friendly coffee momentarily, but before I do, I want to know what is kind of the current status of birds, and I hope you're the right person to ask, but you hear these ominous headlines or you hear on PBS or in the news about bird species teetering on the edge of extinction, so to speak, and losing species over the last several decades, lots of climate impacts. Where are we now? What is kind of our current state?
Yeah, so unfortunately, the state of birds is in a bit of a perilous state right now. In 2019, there was a study that was released that documented the loss of approximately 3 billion birds in North America since 1970. So that's a pretty remarkable loss. And 2.5 billion of those birds were migratory species. So the species that spend some of their time in North America and then migrate to a different location for their overwintering period. To put that in perspective, that's a loss of about 28% of the population of migratory bird species since 1970. So the state of the birds is honestly kind of a perilous one at the moment. So we're seeing a lot of losses for animals like migratory birds, warblers, thrushes, birds like that you might often see sort of in your backyard during the warm weather months. Pretty drastic decline there that we're seeing. So that's one of the things that our program is kind of looking at and studying because a lot of that loss of bird species has to do with habitat destruction. And for migratory species in particular, the interesting kind of question for how do you resolve habitat destruction, how do you restore and conserve habitat for these birds, hinges not just on one location like it does for animals that kind of have a home range of maybe, a few miles or a few hundred miles even. These birds are moving huge distances. So you're having to protect habitat at different points of that annual cycle of migration. So you want to have habitat protected for them in the areas in which they're breeding, as well as the areas in which they are overwintering and those stopover sites in between.
That makes a lot of sense that the travel patterns, where they're going, they've got to be able to stop. It's like me driving across the country. I'm going to stop at a hotel and rest up for the next day, or a campsite, probably more likely. I want to wrap it around a little bit to coffee. So birds and coffee farms, how do they interact?
Yeah, so that is actually how we came up with the Bird Friendly program. So we are bird scientists that sort of stumbled our way into coffee. So, we mentioned that study that was talking about the loss of birds since the 1970s. The Migratory Bird Center has been around since the 1990s, and we've had scientists who were studying this sort of decline in bird populations. And during this kind of research period, what they discovered was that coffee farms that kept shade trees on their land and maintained good, healthy native vegetation on their farms could provide really high quality habitat for birds and biodiversity. So one of the founders of the Migratory Bird Center sort of made this discovery that, high quality shaded habitat equals healthy populations of birds. And from there, that's sort of how the Bird Friendly program came to be. So that's kind of our origin story, if you will, is this discovery of good shade, good coffee, good for birds.
How do birds provide a value to those coffee farms, those coffee producers? I mean, do they, or is it more of this is for the good of the birds, you should do this?
Yeah, actually, birds provide a lot of really important ecosystem services, we call them. So those are things like pollination or seed dispersal. And then another really important one is pest control. So the coffee berry borer is a pretty problematic predator, bug that's a predator to coffee cherries. And one of the things that birds do is feed on these guys. So for some of these birds, if you are, providing a healthy habitat in which they can live sort of on the farm, they're going to be returning the favor by taking care of your coffee berry borer pests and other insects and pests like that for you.
At what point did this idea of like, oh, like coffee farms seem to be good for birds, birds seem to be good for coffee farms, we should create a system to reward farmers that are providing this habitat for birds with some sort of seal or some sort of benefit? How did that certification come about? And I'm wondering if you could tell me a little bit about that process of certification.
For sure. So it started with that research that was occurring on the grounds, and then from there, we started talking to other folks in the coffee world about what it could mean to create a system that would allow for the preservation of habitat and native shade trees on coffee farms so that it would benefit birds and biodiversity. And the certification sort of evolved from there. So there was an initial Sustainable Coffee Congress that happened in the early 2000s that Smithsonian was a part of, and that kind of paved the way for the creation of the bird friendly certification from there. So even though we're still a relatively small certification in the grand scheme of things, we have been around for about 2 decades now.
Wow, that's actually much longer than I would have guessed. The bird friendly seal, and I just want to read it for everyone. I pulled this from your website, so let me know if I misspeak. But it says that when you purchase bird friendly certified coffee or cocoa, you preserve critical habitat for birds and wildlife, fight climate change, protect biodiversity, and support farmers committed to conserving bird and wildlife habitat by farming sustainably, which I think is a pretty big, statement.
Yeah.
But as a coffee drinker who's not a farmer, do I have a reason to care beyond the fact that it's another certification on the bag?
Yeah, so if you are a coffee drinker who is consider yourself maybe a conscious consumer or someone who cares about, the environment, about biodiversity, about conservation, what the Bird Friendly Seal does is provide an assurance to you that the 100% of the coffee in that bag, in that cup, in that container is coming from a farm that provides high quality habitat for birds and biodiversity. Bird friendly coffee is also 100% organic, so it's also guaranteeing that there are no agrochemicals used in the production of that coffee product. So in that sense, if you kind of identify as a conscious consumer, you want to be making purchases that are good for the planet, good for the environment, good for the climate, Bird Friendly is a really good choice for you in that capacity.
How does a farm go about getting certified? And, when I think about other certifications like organic, like fair trade, they often come with a fairly heavy expense to get there and a kind of a recurring auditing system. Is it similar with bird friendly? Who's absorbing that cost, and what does a farmer have to go through to let people know this is what I'm doing? I'll add to that, organic is a common one that I hear from like local farmers in my area in Southern California. They don't have the certification, but they are organic farming, but they can't afford the certification. So how do you manage that?
Organic certification is a prerequisite to becoming bird friendly certified. So the cost of bird friendly itself is relatively low in the grand scheme of things, because what we recommend farmers do is if they assess, do a self-assessment and they take a look at their land and at their practices and say, we think we meet the bird friendly criteria for things like tree diversity, tree height, native species that are present on the land, and several other criteria that we look for within the bird friendly program. Then what we recommend they do is during their next organic inspection, they couple that with a bird friendly inspection. So we provide a free training to independent third-party auditors on how to conduct a bird friendly inspection and what it means. And then those third-party auditors are the ones to perform the inspection on the ground and issue the certification to the producer. Now, bird friendly certification is valid for 3 years, so it's less of a time commitment and resource commitment than an organic inspection that may occur annually. So that kind of helps with the cost. And really, the only cost to bird friendly inspection is what the producer and the auditing company negotiate as far as the per diem or the amount of time it takes the auditing company to come out and perform the inspection. But because we recommend that's coupled with the organic inspection, the cost tends to be quite a bit lower than what you might expect.
I feel like this third-party auditor's got it made. They get to walk around coffee farms looking at birds, which sounds fantastic. I am I'm going to call it early middle-aged gentleman who somehow became obsessed with birds like every other early middle-aged gentleman in the world. And I now own multiple bird books and binoculars. And so that sounds pretty amazing to me. I'm wondering how the coronavirus impacted your organization, kind of the growth and development over the past few years, but also the studies that you guys are doing on migratory birds. How did you continue doing that work over the last couple of years, and what changes have you seen? There was a point where we thought the pandemic might benefit habitats and wildlife, especially early on. Nobody was driving, nobody was out doing things. Has that stayed the same, or has that changed?
So, like everyone, our program was, of course, affected by COVID and the pandemic. So we did have travel restrictions that were in place, and we were unable to kind of go out into the field for field work and things like that. However, we're fortunate that we do work with folks who are in country and are on the ground and can continue some of the work and research, but there were many areas in which we had to pivot just like everyone else. As far as kind of how our program operations went, unfortunately, we did have many of our producers who were directly affected by COVID through illness and unfortunately death as well, which was a really very sad loss for a lot of coffee growing communities and for our program. So one of the things that we did notice that's very promising, though, is that the Bird Friendly program has really spectacularly rebounded since the pandemic. So while we did see an initial drop in Bird Friendly coffee sales overall that were reported to our program during 2020 and in the early stages of 2021, since then we've had a really strong rebound where there have been a lot of new roasting companies who have joined into the Bird Friendly program, who are beginning to sell new Bird Friendly certified products and who are, helping contribute to that habitat conservation on coffee farms.
I met you briefly at the Specialty Coffee Association Expo and saw your booth and just kind of stopped by to check it out. I'm wondering, how do you get the word out besides industry-related events to people that bird-friendly certification is a thing, they should look for it, wherever they're buying coffee, or what challenges do you face getting that education component out to the consumer?
One of the most challenging things for any company or certification or NGO or conservation effort right now is just getting and capturing the attention of your audience. So this is something that we are up against. Everyone on TikTok, everyone on Instagram, everyone who is just clamoring for a little bit of that audience attention to get you to care about something, to want to back it, to want to support it. It's a bit of a tall order. But one of the things that our program has found great success in over the past couple of years is partnering with mission-aligned institutions. So groups like zoos, aquariums, museums, nature centers, universities who share our sustainability values and actively want to be doing things to support conservation. So through many of these relationships that we've sort of cultivated and new relationships that have come about through some of the connections that we've made have really helped us to reach new communities with the Drink Bird Friendly message and to engage new roasters in the Bird Friendly program. So we had a lot of new zoos and aquariums who started to work with our program to bring Bird Friendly to their communities, their cities, their areas, and not just sell the coffee on site, but also share the message about what it means to choose bird friendly as far as the benefits to biodiversity conservation and the benefits to the coffee drinkers, to the climate, to the environment, to everybody.
My brain is just going crazy right now thinking, man, if I had a cafe and I was pursuing this avenue, there's so many, I could do bird friendly coffee walks. I could do bird watching events. I can see the branding in my head. So I think the Drink Bird Friendly is a great tagline. Mm-hmm. We jumped right into this conversation about what the Smithsonian's doing and your program and birds. What about you? Do you consider yourself a coffee person? Are you a coffee drinker?
I am a coffee drinker. So I do. I have found as I've been working in coffee, my threshold for what makes for a good cup of coffee has been continually getting higher the longer I've been working in coffee. So my table downstairs of all the different things that it takes to make a good cup of coffee in the morning I just keep adding to it with more and more different things to try. So I went from, when I started just, with a French press, now I've got a pour over, I've got a coffee foamer, I've got different origins, of bird friendly coffee in the drawer, ready to try each day. So it's been a really fun journey to get to know the coffee world a lot better and to kind of become a de facto coffee person.
I mean, that is a struggle that a lot of coffee people can relate to. I bought a special coffee cart this year to kind of house all of my equipment, and it's somehow I've already outgrown it. So I'm struggling with that right now. I mentioned that I saw your booth at the Specialty Coffee Association Expo. What was that experience like for you? I know for me it was quite overwhelming. It was my first major specialty coffee expo since I started the show a few years ago, and since COVID hit. What was it like for your group?
We absolutely love the opportunity to participate in the Specialty Coffee Expo. So Bird Friendly has had a booth at the Expo for a number of years, long before I joined the program just a couple of years ago. And it's such a wonderful opportunity for us to connect with many members of our Bird Friendly community. So we see folks from across the supply chain, everyone from some of the producers who stop by to say hello, who maybe we've never met before, or our old friends of the program. We're getting to reconnect with them and talk to them and hear about the great things that are happening at their farm, the importers and the roasters, the retailers. So it's such a really fantastic opportunity to connect with many different members of our program, just to catch up, to chat with them, to hear what they're doing and what they're up to, answer any questions they might have for us. And then, of course, to meet all the new people at the expo. It's such a massive, massive event. The first year I went, I just was dumbfounded at just how much was going on and how big the coffee world really was. So it was such a cool opportunity to kind of see all of these folks together in one place, to get to meet all these new people who are interested in different areas of the coffee world and just learn about things that I just didn't even know existed. So we love it. It's one of the favorite things that we do each year is to get a chance to connect with friends new and old at the Coffee Expo.
What comes next for the Bird Friendly program? I mean, in the near future, long term, what are the goals that you have that you've set for yourselves?
Yeah, so one of the big things that we are really interested in doing is continuing to raise awareness on the Bird Friendly certification. So as we talked about a little bit earlier, we've been around for about a couple of decades now, but really it's only been within the last handful of years that we started doing more active marketing, outreach, and awareness to the coffee community and to coffee consumers about the Bird Friendly seal and what it means and that we exist. So we want to really be continuing to do that, to build upon the work that we've started. We've seen some really good progress so far just over the last few years in what we've done. So we want to continue to build on that to grow our community of folks who are involved in the Bird Friendly supply chain, to continue to spread awareness and raise awareness and really talk about what it means to be Smithsonian Bird Friendly certified, and to get more and more folks involved and engaged in our program, whether they're drinking coffee, growing coffee, importing coffee, roasting coffee. We're open to everybody kind of coming on board and joining our program.
How would somebody listening find a Bird Friendly coffee near them or available to them?
Bird Friendly coffee can be purchased online at our website. So you can go to birdfriendly.si.edu, and that will take you to the Bird Friendly homepage. And from there, we have a buy online portal where you can have Bird Friendly coffee shipped right to your door. If you prefer to buy your Bird Friendly coffee in person in your community, we are found in many different areas. We're not everywhere just yet, so you might not see us at your big chain grocery stores and things like that. But many natural food stores carry Bird Friendly coffee, as well as some birding stores too. So, if you're going to buy some bird seed or a new bird feeder, there's a chance you'll see some Bird Friendly coffee on the shelves there. And we have a tool on our website as well that will help you find some of the retail locations where Bird Friendly coffee is frequently sold.
Sure. And I find that businesses that are selling Bird Friendly coffee generally are pretty vocal about it. So if you're following your favorite roasters on social media or wherever, it's likely you'll find that information there too if you're looking for it. I'll close out by asking, When you go to a coffee shop, I'm assuming you're going to go on a birding tour somewhere, let's say South America, and you stop into a great looking coffee shop on the side of the road. What are you going to order?
Oh man, that's a tough question. My go-to order this time of year in the warm weather months is to get an iced oat milk latte, and I will get a maple latte whenever they have it on the menu. That's my absolute favorite. One of my favorite drinks that I've ever had is a salted smoked maple latte from Ogawa Coffee in Boston. That's my personal favorite that I've ever had. It was incredibly delicious. It's, not an endorsement from Smithsonian, but just for me as an individual saying I would drink that coffee every day if I could. But yeah, this time of year, I love an iced oat milk latte.
I was going to say that sounded very Canadian, and then you threw me when you told me it was in Boston. I really appreciate that you took some time to come on the show and teach me a little bit about the Bird Friendly seal and what that means. And also just thank you for doing that work. I think it's really important, and it's something that I care about. I would have never thought that it impacted my cup of coffee until, seeing your booth and kind of Googling and learning a little bit more about birds in general.
Yeah, thank you so much for the opportunity to connect, Ryan. It's been really great to chat. And that's probably my favorite thing about the Bird Friendly program is that you can picture yourself this time of year, you're sitting, looking out your window, maybe you've got a bird feeder, maybe you're going for a walk in the park and you're enjoying your morning cup of coffee and you see a Baltimore Oriole fly by or a yellow warbler. That individual bird could be benefiting from the coffee that's in your cup, which I think is absolutely incredible. It's not just talking about a species that, you may never see in person or that lives several states or countries away. That individual bird may have just come back up to North America from spending their time over the winter on a coffee farm, and it may be benefiting from the very coffee that's in your cup, which I think is pretty cool.
Okay, here are some key takeaways. For starters, I am not back in the podcasting closet yet. I've actually recorded this intro in my car, then again in the basement at a friend's home, then again in the closet at my in-laws. So far, this has been the best take. Secondly, Bones is a great TV show. If you haven't seen it, you've got season upon season to catch up on. Drink Bird Friendly is a great motto. I like birds. I like coffee. Why wouldn't I want to drink Bird Friendly? The Bird Friendly certification has been around for a long time, and it is a certification that is dependent on the organic certification. You can be organic and not be bird friendly, but you can't be certified bird friendly without also being organic. I also learned today that the Smithsonian is huge. 21 libraries, 19 museums, a national zoo, and 9 research facilities around the world. That isn't even accounting for the 200 plus other museum affiliates located in the United States, Puerto Rico, and Panama. It is also one of America's oldest institutions, having been formally organized in 1846. The Migratory Bird Center wing, see what I did there, was founded in 1991 to focus on the migration of birds, and has currently turned their attention to the perilous state of birds due to disease and environmental challenges, including climate change and habitat loss. Just a reminder, birds need habitats along their migration routes, not just at points A and B. The Bird Friendly Coffee program is a bit younger than the organization itself, having been established in 1998. The program was developed by bird scientists that stumbled into coffee after observing that coffee farms often create high-quality shaded habitat for birds. And it isn't a one-sided relationship. Birds eat insects and pests, including the coffee borer beetles, which are the scourge of the coffee farmer worldwide. I hope I used that word right. With the Bird Friendly certification program, the team at the Smithsonian are focused on growing awareness, the community of bird-loving coffee drinkers, and encouraging us all to look for the certification as part of being an eco-conscious consumer. On previous episodes of this show, we've talked about certifications and their value. There are a lot of opinions on which are best or most equitable. There is cost associated with being organic or fair trade or bird friendly, and some farms, especially small ones, who've been on the wrong end of the C market for generations, may not be able to afford them. That doesn't mean that they aren't eco-friendly farms, but it doesn't mean that they are either. Certifications generally serve as a tool for us consumers to try and make educated decisions. I didn't know that all bird-friendly coffees were also certified organic. Now, when I'm picking up a bag at my local roasters, I'll have that info in my coffee shopping toolbox. Finally, I did spend 3 hours in the car hunting down coffee. A combination of rain, traffic, and closed cafes did me in. However, in the end, as it always does, it worked out. I spent a lovely hour at Lucky Coffee in Poway, California, chatting with former guests of this show and owners Tom and Katie, learning how things have gone in their first year of business, and even being the recipient of an impromptu piano concert. We mentioned a lot of various websites and links today. The big one is drinkbirdfriendly.com. You can find that one and all the rest, including that original interview I did with Tom and Katie at Lucky Coffee, in this podcast's show notes, or in the newsletter that goes with the pod, found at roastwestcoast.com. While you're there, please sign up for the newsletter so you don't miss any of these interviews or our Coffee Smarter education shows. Thanks to everyone who does. This show continues to be free because listeners and readers sign up for that newsletter. And of course, with the support and help from our great sponsors, like Roastar Coffee Packaging. Our presenting sponsor prints coffee packaging and focuses on building relationships with coffee brands of all sizes. Learn more at roastar.com. Our other coffee industry partners are here to uplift the coffee community generally, which is just awesome. Not to mention, they help us all get a little bit coffee smarter and are often the ones providing me with the coffee that fuels this show. They include Coffee Cycle Roasting, Ignite Coffee Company, Maria Coffee, Cape Horn Coffee Importers, Zumbar Coffee and Tea, Ascend Coffee Roasters, Moster Coffee Company, Steady State Coffee Roasting, San Franciscan Roaster Company, Crossings Coffee, Acento Coffee Roasters, Camp Coffee Company, Civets Roasting Machines, First Light Coffee Whiskey, and Hasea Coffee Source. Coffee People is off next week. I'll be airing one of our classic episodes as we've crossed the halfway point of Season 8. If you're only looking for that newness, we'll be back the following week to talk sustainability and packaging with Roastar's Danielle Toby. This Coffee People podcast is part of the Roast West Coast Coffee Network. And this show has been written, produced, and recorded by me, Ryan Woldt. I hope this episode has found you happy, healthy, and with at least a thread of sanity left, enabling you to make it through the day. Always tip your baristas, and be sure to drink good coffee. Hello, all you coffee drinkers out there. If you are in the early stages of your coffee journey, we want to support you. Season 2 of the Coffee Smarter Education podcast is now underway. The first episode on blade versus bird grinders is already out. If you want to brew a better cup of coffee at home, search for Coffee Smarter on your favorite podcasting platform and hit the follow or subscribe button. Or just go to roastwestcoast.com and sign up for the newsletter, and we'll send it to your email every single week. Thanks for being awesome and drinking coffee smarter.